Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Alejandro RONDÓN. I'm a pre-sales engineer for Centreon, and today I'm here to show you how the Centreon IT monitoring platform can help you, even if you're a small company or a big multinational company, on your IT supervision requirements. Let's start with the connectors. When we can see it here in my computer, you can see the list of all the connectors that you have available. These connectors can go from different services or server types or everything. So for example, if we can see the categories quickly, you can see that you have servers, databases, you can based on protocols or devices themselves like printers, etc. But also you can have everything that is virtualization. So for example, if today, if you have anything on the VMware or Kubernetes, you can actually monitor it with Centreon. One of the examples that we can do, for example, let's say a very simple case with the protocols, it will be the SNMP protocol. So in the generic SNMP, we can see that this connector will include all the templates that you need for the hosts and the services and every threshold that you need. This will be already packaged for you, including not only the plugin, which is the open source based, but also every command that you may need for every metric that you might require. You can also see that we have an auto discovery part, but let's not rush. We will see a very big example just like. But here we can have the documentation on everything that this protocol will give us. So for example, this connector will give us the agents that we can require, which the configurations that we can have, and more importantly, what are the metrics that you can retrieve and you can get from this connector. In case that your need is not solved by any of the pack of the connectors that we have available for you in any of the commercial editions, of course, you have your own options. One option is to go to the Watch, the community website. You can go into the ideas page and you can either see if the solution here, you have it and you can upvote, knowing that everything that gets upvoted has more chances to get included onto a roadmap, or you can include your own idea and hope that you get enough vote for have it included. Another option is to also to create the connector by yourself, following the development guidelines that we have in our documentation, as you can see on the screen. Another option, if you're a little bit more in a hurry, is that you can actually contact us, use the professional services to create the connector for you. That's another way. Now we can see that how everything we can connect to a service, but we do have some types of monitoring that we have to do. And now we can see what type of monitoring we want to apply. So for example, we can have the active monitoring, in which is Centreon, which is going to initiate the checks on a regular basis to the configured hosts and services that you have. Or you have the passive monitoring, which is actually the device who is going to send all the information or going to push all the events towards the Centreon. Each has their own benefits, its own advantages. For example, the active monitoring will give you a full control of everything that you need to check when you need to check it. It works very well when you have the control of your network. So for example, if you're in your private network where you know you have some data that is going to transfer from one side to another, and you don't care about this exposing to external servers, and this is perfect. The passive monitoring, it will be more into something like a special network, a remote network that you know that you have a DMC or something that you have a firewall in between. So we will have a case of getting the monitoring. You can get some examples. For example, for the active monitoring, we can use something like an SNMP or HTTPS or WNI, SSH for synthetic servers. Or with the passive monitoring, we will use more protocols like SNMP traps or the OpenTelemetry standard. Now, another question that we might get often is, should I use an agent or an agentless monitoring? So for that case, let's see the advantage of each one. So first you have the agentless monitoring. So in this case, it will be Centreon who will collect the data, but there will be no agents, nothing installed on the servers that we want to install. This works very well because it's easy to deploy. It's very easy to maintain. There's not something that you have to install. And of course, we know that there are some devices that might not be able to install something. For example, if you want to monitor a camera or a thermometer or something, another type of the device, we might not be able to install anything on those devices. For the agent part, it will be a more specific view. We will have a more deep into what we can see from the service itself of the server. And of course, it will allow us to be secure in the way that we transmit. This way, we can actually even deploy a more specific test, so we can execute more specific scripts inside those devices. An example of this agent monitoring will be using the Centreon Monitoring Agent, the CMA, which is, of course, an agent which is based on the OpenTelemetry standard that will send regularly metrics. So you can install it either in Linux or in Windows. And of course, we are thinking of this agent for the future as well, because of course, we are going to have a full observability with Centreon. So we will have more data coming from the agents, such things as logs or stacks. I'm not giving you more details on this, but you have a lot of resources available for you. You can find some videos here and also in the description. So now that we know how we can actually do some monitoring in our platform, let's see how we can configure it. Of course, as we can see, we can have some configuration that is very easy, but it's limited on your time. This is perfect if you only have 10 or 15 devices that you want to configure. But if you have a big platform, if you have something very flexible using tools like as we saw with VMware or Kubernetes for Docker, if you have these flexible and scalable applications, you need something, you need to help. So with that, we have the self-discovery engine. To show you the self-discovery engine, let's come back to our platform. And as we saw, for example, the generic SNMP, you have some auto-discovery rules. This will be the same for all the other connectors that we saw. So for example, the Kubernetes, the AWS, etc. So you can actually have this discovery. So how does this work? Well, let's see. We can just go to the discovery section of our video, of our platform. And here we will have all the jobs that we have covered. So for example, we have jobs that are using the SNMP agents or using the VMware agent, etc. On these cases, you can actually decide, of course, other than just the parameters of what are you going to discover and where. You can also do, for example, the mappers that will allow you to take the information that you are retrieving from the discovery and how you're going to set up your host. And of course, when are you going to apply it? Are you going to apply automatically, or regularly, or manually at one time? Let's say that we deployed this manually. So now we can see the result of this test. For example, that we have 138 results for this VMware view. So we have here a list of all the hosts that we found on that VMware machine, all of the VMware machines. We are going to retrieve some metadata about this case. So for example, what's the OS, what's the IP address, what, etc. And all of this, using our mappers, will be set to our host that we are going to deploy. There's another thing also that will help you a lot, is that we can do the basic concept of a discovery for the services. So for example, we can look for in a service in a particular host, we can see what other services we can expand. This can be, for example, if we have a switch that we are monitoring, so we can see what are the interfaces are open, what are interfaces are being used and have traffic, and we can add them to the service as a monitoring. We can also use them, for example, we have a Linux server. We want to see which processes are running. We can also check that for you. Now that you have all your monitoring, all your infrastructure is completely monitored, of course, you're going to have a lot of data. Where does the data go and how you can see it? Of course, the first case to see it, it will be the main event console, which is our resource monitoring, in which you're going to see every server, every host that you're monitoring. You're going to see every service as well. You're going to see all the information. But of course, you can filter it. You can alter it. This view, it was made for you to see everything that you need to see at the right time, at the right moment. So of course, you can customize it to your needs, to your requirements. In this case, for example, we can use the search bar, which has an autocomplete engine. So we can, for example, search a group that we can go. So for example, we can check the infrastructure servers of the pre-sales environment. Again, we can also use, if you don't want to use the search bar, you can also have the filter, in which you can say, for example, okay, I want all the current servers that are in this group, and I'm going to search. You can also save this filter if you know that you're going to use it more often. So for example, if you want a filter for all the infrastructure that is in this site or in that site, etc., you can filter and share this view, more importantly, with everyone. So now that we have the notification, let's see, for example, one of the services that is on alert in a warning. So this is the service of the central. If we see the little window on the side, we will see a lot of the context that we have ready to be to give us as the tools that we need for the diagnosis of this application, of what go and run with this notification. So here, for example, we see which is the test that we're performing, when was done, what was the latency, what are the tests being performed, if we have metrics associated, etc. So that's a very important part that we have already. You can also see the timeline for each of those changes of notifications. So for example, let's see if you have one that went from critical warning or went back to okay, you can see all the timeline of all the applications that you have in this case. Of course, you can see graphs of all the metrics that you have. So for example, you can see the graphs that are running for 1 day, 24 hours, 7 days, a month. So you can see all the details, everything that is running. So for example, here we can see that, yes, we do have one peak, one particular peak this morning at 8 a.m. that we have the case that we're running. But we know that there's also some regularly some updates running, maintenance being done to the server. And that is the case that we're running. And we can see that curve on the notification. If you wish to have a little bit more intelligence into your notifications, we have a good news for you because we have the AOps module, which include the anomaly detect tool, which uses machine learning protocols to see and analyze the data that we have. So for example, here, the graph, we can see that it will take everything that we have done. The machine learning will detect what are the metrics when they're in a correct range, on a regular range, or when there's something that is out of the normal. And that, in that case, you will only be notified when something is out of the normal and not when everything is working as it should. Now that we're talking about notifications, let's see here how we can have. So of course, you will see the notifications that we have associated to this service, to this host. We can see, for example, that we have some members of the pre-sales team, Cubra and me, that we will receive the notifications on this service. These notifications, you can receive them via any channel that you might like. So for example, some people like emails, some people like SMS. Some people actually uses a lot of EM platforms, such as Microsoft Teams or Slack, and we can send also notification on those channels just for you. Another way of treating the notifications will be using, for example, your ITSM platform. Let's say that you have something to delegate all your incident management, something like Jira, something like Easy Vista, or GLP, as we're going to use in our case. So for that, let's go to the platform, to a dashboard, a specific dashboard that we had done for the GLP. So here we can open the GLPI, and we can see the list of all the hosts that are on critical. Of course, we're going to create, if we're going to create an incident, it's for something critical, not for anything else. And we can, in this view, we can create a new ticket, we can open a ticket with everything that we might do, any parameters that we can do, either dynamically when we're creating or automatically returning from the case that we have, the information from the host, the site, etc. And of course, you can also see all the tickets that we have open because we have the interconnectivity between GLPI and Centreon that will allow us to have all the information that we have ready. Another way of using the notifications is through escalations. So let's say, for example, that you have a ticket, an incident that you receive, send one notification via email, but no action was taken behind. There was no action taken to that notification. If you wish, you can send it through another group or another channel. So let's say, for example, you have your IT team that received an email from this notification, but nothing happened during 30 minutes. We can resend that same notification to other channels. So let's say Slack or Teams, etc. Or we can even send them to another groups. So let's say now, okay, we are going to send them to the people that are on urgencies or the people are the managers. So something we can send them to another thing. So that's perfect. So that's how we can manage the notification. We can see that we are going to receive every notifications that we have. We're not going to miss a notification. But something more important than receiving a notification is receiving the right amount to not be overwhelmed by the amount of notifications that you receive. For that, we have the dependency management. Dependency management, not as in a development environment, but it's just that we are going to see the relationship between the different hosts that we have. Let's give you an example. So let's say that you have a remote site with have servers, have some switches, have some applications, etc., and it's connected to your main site through a one link. That one link will fail for something happen, And instead of receiving a notification from all the services, all the servers, or the hosts that you have behind that one link, you're just going to receive, Centreon will detect that all of those notifications are linked, and it will send you just the right notification, so you're on the right subject. So for example, only that the one link is down, and not that you cannot access the applications behind or the switches behind, etc. So that's one way of keeping your team focused on what really matters. So we have all this information that we have, all the notifications, we have all of the data that we're receiving from the host, from the servers, etc. Now it's just a question of how we're going to share them. Because we have to share the right information to the right people at the right time. So for that, we have the dashboards. Let's go and see some dashboards. So for example, I'm opening the pre-sales dashboard, so we can see all the infrastructure that we use in the pre-sales team, because of course we also use Centreon in-house. So in order to modify this dashboard, let's add a new widget. So we can add a new widget, and I'm going to select the resource table, which is the same event console that we saw earlier that we can have. So here I'm going to select my configurations that we are going to use. So for example, I'm going to say that, okay, yes, only the ones that are down or critical, or that we have a warning. And I'm going to select the host group, and I'm going to select the ones that are for pre-sales team. So the pre-sales infrastructure servers, and we can add that dashboard. So now we see the dashboard, and of course, we can resize it and move it around the dashboard as we need, as we require. Because of course, that's the purpose of this view, is to be completely adapted to what you need and what you want to see at the right time. So that's with how you create one dashboard. So here, let's go back to our dashboard views, and we can see that, for example, you can create playlist. When you're creating playlists, what you're doing is simply you're adding different dashboards that you have already created, and you can actually have them rotate according to a fixed time that you are going to show. This is perfect. So for example, if you have a screen in your open space or in your operations room, so you can see everything that is going. So for example, here we are watching the VMware environments, all the machines that we have, or that we have other indicators that we might include. That can go from a very technical IT side. So for example, we can see the status of the different servers. We can have the console as we already saw it. And here you can have the example of more of a business view, in which you will have views of, for example, the plan of your floor, all the information that you have on all different maps that you can have. And as I said, we can share this dashboards as playlists with people either in our site company, as internal IT teams, or with external people, service provider or customer that you want to share, that you're respecting your SLAs. In that case, when we're talking about sharing, we want to do that the right information goes to the right people. And for that, we can do it with the access control list. If we go to the management and the access control list, we can see that those applications, we can actually control what a person can see where and when. So in this case, for example, let's say an administrator of the platform can see all of the rules that we have, all of the servers that we have, and I can access everything as an administrator. But let's say that we have partners that we are going to share our platform with them, and we just want to restrain a little bit more what we can do when we can share it. So for example, they can only access a certain type of host, they can also access a certain type of view, or they can also perform some certain type of actions. This will give you a very good balance between security, flexibility that you need to happen for the people. Now let's talk about maps. So with maps, as you can see, we can create two types of maps. We have one type of map, the standard type of map, which is let's say a logical type of map. Here I have a network, a topology network. So we have some supermarkets, let's call them infields, that they are in different regions, in different cities, and we have the one connections between them. So you can see everything that is there. So now let's just see how we can actually edit this map to add more information. So for that, we open the map editor, and we can see on the left, sorry, all the shapes, everything that you can add, all the resources that you have, all the widgets that you have to include some images, some central resources, such as host or services, etc. that you can add. And to the left, you will have the format. So in case that you select one widget, you can actually format this application. Of course, imagine this like a very big visual or PowerPoint that we can add and create some different widgets, some different resources. So in this case, let's add one widget that is going to be a host group. It's a host group that includes everything on infield. So that we know that we have an host group that is called infield. That again, it will include all the hosts, all the different services that we have in the infield management group. And we can add them directly, and we can select the infields and we can add it to the map. And as we can see it, we will have one new widget, which is called infield, that will include all the information from this group. So if we save this map and we exit into the normal view, now you can see that infield host group. You can see all the different cases that are running, all the different hosts and services that we're running. And even if we click, we will access all of them. So you can see them very easily. Now let's come back to our maps. And as you can see, we have those standard maps, which are more, like, let's say, logical or a more important view of how you can do the different cases. But you also have geographical maps. So for example, here, let's open a map for good food. And you can see that we can add the geo coordinates of different host groups or different services, host or servers, and we can plan them into a map of the planet. So for example, here we have the Europe map. So we have London, we have Paris, we have Madrid, and we have all of the different places that we have running. So that you can also have this type of view on your dashboard to help you. We saw with map that we can have a very quick overview of our systems, of all of our applications. But now let's see a more of a business view, a detailed view. So for that, we have what we call the business activity monitoring. So let's see those applications, those business activities. And here I'm going to select, for example, the demo of Centreon, which is the pre-sales platform infrastructure that we're having. So if we click there, we are going to see that here we are grouping all the information, not only as different hosts or services or anything that we might record, but of the impact that they have into an application, into a business view. This can be by different views. So for example, like we are doing here for different environments. So for example, if I click in this case, I can see all the different environments that I have. So for example, the production environment or the preparation environment or the integration environment. But we can also see it from another business view. So let's say offices, etc. What is this doing is calculating the KPIs of those hosts into the impact that they have into the business. So for example, here we have the pre-production environment that it has some impacts, that we have some swap, and we have a little bit of an alert, but that is not impacting the business itself, since the in-business impact is low. How we can calculate this? Well, we can define the KPIs to calculate either by a weight, so we can see the weight of the different services, how they impact the business, or we can just use the ratio, or even the best case or worst case if we're doing that. So that is how we can calculate these KPIs that then can be done as an alert to send you a notification just if your business is impacted. So perfect. Now that we have all the KPIs running, we have them ready, everything is good. But what if we want to analyze them a little bit on the long run? So for that, Centreon offers the Monitoring Business Intelligence module, or MBI. So you can create your own reports based on the ITIL standard. So for that, you can receive reports such as the ones that are here on the screen. You can receive them regularly or on demand, and they can be sent to the right person at the right time as you might need them, as we have done before. So here you can, for example, you can do an SLA follow-up to see that all your SLAs are being respected and how they are doing, or you can do the morning check just to see that you have how everything went the night before, on the day before. You can also have an incident resolution follow-up, so see if every incident that you have is already available, or how it's running, or any other kind of reports that we might have. And that is a glance of everything that has Centreon. Something very important to do is that everything we have seen not only can be done through the website or the web application of Centreon, it can also be done over the API. So the API will allow you to actually perform all of this task command line for automation on your services. So you can extract that information from Centreon to create your own reports on your own tools. You can also automate the host configuration via your CMDB, that you can retrieve information, IP, etc., all of that to include them into the monitoring. You can do some user access and access management. So for example, the SLAs, you can manage them through the API. You can also do the integration with the RTSM or other orchestration services. So we can see we can integrate perfectly well with EasyVista or Jira or any other system that it might have. And with that, we have seen a little bit of everything that Centreon can do, but I can promise you this is only the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to explore. And for that, you have a lot more resources that are available. So you have, for example, you can check on our website for the cloud trial, or you can download the IT 100 edition. So you have a free license for you to use. You can also see a lot of more videos in our YouTube channel, like this one, or other done by me or any other of my colleagues are also creating videos for you. You can also, very importantly, go to the watch. So you can join the community of the users of Centreon. So you can communicate with other users and other things. And of course, you can book a meeting with us, someone like me for pre-sales or sales, to create a very personalized demo just for you. So with that, thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for your patience and see you soon. Goodbye.